The subway train rattled through the city, its steel wheels humming a tired lullaby. Noah Bennett sat on the worn-out plastic seat near the door, his eyes half-closed, arms folded protectively around a crumpled paper bag holding his daughter Emma's favorite cereal, one he had to skip lunch for just to afford. His shoes were soaked from the rain outside, and his hoodie was 2 winters old, stitched at the sleeves by hand. But his heart? Still stubbornly full of hope. Across from him sat a woman who didn't belong there, not because she was rude or loud, but because her presence quietly announced another world. Her coat looked expensive, the kind you didn't find on sale. Her heels were pristine despite the puddles, her black leather purse nestled in her lap like it had its own seat. She scrolled on her phone, occasionally glancing around as if trying to avoid eye contact without seeming cold. The train jerked as it reached the next station. People shuffled in. Noah stood up, ready to offer his seat to an older man with a cane. He nodded, smiled, and steadied the gentleman. In that brief movement, he saw it. The woman had stood up too, distracted by a call. She slung her purse over her shoulder, or so she thought, but it had fallen onto the seat and now lay half-buried under a discarded newspaper. The doors whooshed closed. The woman was gone. Noah looked down. The purse sat there silently, untouched. No one else seemed to notice. He hesitated. "Hey," he called out, dashing toward the nearest window, craning his neck to catch sight of the woman on the platform. She had already disappeared into the crowd. A man in a suit sitting beside him frowned. Probably staged. Rich folks always pulling something. Noah ignored him, carefully picking up the purse. He didn't open it, didn't even peek. He just looked at the emergency contact card visible through the transparent pouch, V. Langford. There was a phone number scribbled underneath. The rest of the train ride, he wrestled with himself. Should he drop it at the police station? Call the number? Would they think he stole it? But something deeper nudged him, his daughter Emma's voice in his head from just last night. "Daddy, you always say doing the right thing is never wrong, even if nobody sees it." He pulled out his cheap flip phone and dialed. "Hello," came a clipped but polite female voice. I think you left your purse on the subway. I just wanted to make sure it gets back to you." There was a pause. Then a sharp inhale. "Where are you?" she asked, voice suddenly alert. "I'm about 6 stops down now, headed home. I can meet you somewhere safe." 15 minutes later, they met at a donut shop near the station. She stood outside, under a green umbrella, scanning nervously. When she saw him holding her bag, still zipped and untouched, her expression melted. "Oh, thank God," she breathed, taking it. I thought I'd lost everything. My ID, my keys, everything's in here." Noah gave a tired but kind smile. "Glad I could help. I've got a daughter, Emma. She's waiting for me, so I should head back." The woman opened her purse, pulled out a wad of cash. "No need," Noah said immediately. "I didn't do it for money." She looked at him closely now, for the first time really seeing him, wet shoes, patched hoodie, hands cracked from hard work. "I'm Victoria," she said, slowly returning the cash. "Can I at least offer you a warm coffee? It's raining hard." Noah hesitated. He wanted to say yes. He really did. But dignity ran deep. "I should go. My little girl's waiting. But thank you." He started walking, disappearing down the sidewalk as the neon sign of the donut shop flickered overhead. Inside her purse, untouched, was an envelope with business contracts worth millions. And as she stared after him, this stranger who didn't ask questions, didn't pry, didn't take, something stirred in her. A sense of safety. Of something rare. She didn't know then that she'd soon see him again. And that the man walking away into the rain might be the one to finally pull her out of the lonely empire she'd built. And that her next decision would change both of their lives forever. 2 days passed since Noah returned the purse. Life moved on, sort of. He hadn't expected anything in return, and certainly not to hear from Victoria again. After all, she seemed like the type whose life moved in elevator penthouses, cocktail receptions, and assistant-scheduled meetings. He lived in a two-room apartment above a laundromat where the heater coughed more than it worked. But on Thursday evening, as he was cleaning tables at the local diner, his second job after warehouse hours, someone walked in who didn't belong to the usual crowd of graveyard shift cabbies and overnight nurses. She wore jeans and a loose beige sweater, no makeup, her hair tied back in a low ponytail. Still unmistakably her. Victoria? Noah almost dropped the coffee pot. She smiled. Hi. He looked around, flustered. Did something happen? Did I miss something in the purse? No, she said, slipping into a booth by the window. I came to say thank you properly. And because I've been thinking about you. Noah blinked. About me? I didn't mean that to sound forward, she said, looking a little embarrassed. It's just you handed me my life back that day. And you didn't ask for anything. That doesn't happen in my world. He sat across from her slowly. The diner manager raised an eyebrow but said nothing. I appreciate the thanks, Noah said, but I'm not really used to this kind of attention. Victoria tilted her head. You're used to being invisible, aren't you? That caught him off guard. She looked out the window, hands wrapped around the water glass. I've been wealthy for so long, I forgot what it's like to need help. But that day, I did. And the person who helped me wasn't in a tailored suit or chauffeured car. It was a stranger who walked home in the rain. Noah let out a soft laugh. Life has a funny way of flipping things around. Then she reached into her bag and handed him a clean, white envelope. He opened it cautiously, expecting a gift card or maybe a letter of gratitude. Inside was an invitation. Langford Foundation Private Dinner, honoring everyday heroes. Date, Saturday. Venue, Langford Estate Conservatory. I want you to come, she said, meeting his eyes. As my guest. Noah stared at the card. You're inviting me to a millionaire dinner? She nodded. I know it sounds strange. It sounds like a trap, he said with a chuckle. Victoria smiled. I need someone to shake things up. You're perfect for that. He wasn't sure if she was serious or if this was some social experiment. But he also saw something honest in her eyes. Not pity. Not superiority. Curiosity. Will there be real food? He asked. She laughed for the first time. Yes. Even pie. Then I'll think about it, he said, pocketing the invite. When she left, the other waitress at the counter rushed over. Who was that? She whispered, wide-eyed. She looked like someone who drinks wine older than this building. Noah just smiled. Someone who's learning how to be real. That night, after Emma had fallen asleep under her blanket fort of books and stuffed animals, Noah sat on the couch holding the invitation. He'd always told himself he was done with risks. But something about Victoria's eyes, sad and searching beneath all that polish, made him want to say yes. Maybe not for himself. Maybe for someone like Emma, who might grow up needing the world to be a little less cold. And maybe, just maybe, for the woman who didn't seem to realize that what she truly needed couldn't be found in money or status, but in someone who simply saw her. Saturday evening arrived with the kind of nerves Noah hadn't felt since his high school prom, which he hadn't even attended. His daughter Emma clung to his leg in their tiny apartment as he buttoned up the only blazer he owned, a second-hand navy one that barely matched his shirt. He'd even borrowed a tie from his neighbor upstairs. You look like a movie star, Daddy, Emma said, beaming. More like the understudy of a background actor, he chuckled, tying his shoelaces. You be good for Mrs. Jennings, okay? Emma nodded solemnly. Is this the dinner with the fancy lady? He paused. Yeah. The one I told you about. Do you think she's a princess? He smiled, kissed her forehead. Maybe. But even if she is, I'm not going to the castle to sweep floors. I'm going to see what it's like in their world. By 7:45 p.m., Noah stood outside the towering gates of the Langford estate, a mansion straight out of architectural magazines. The guards at the gate looked skeptical as they checked the invite, but when Victoria's assistant came rushing down the steps and greeted him personally, their tone shifted instantly. Inside, crystal chandeliers shimmered, violins played softly, and everyone smelled like wealth. Noah felt wildly out of place, tugging at his collar, but then he saw her. Victoria stood at the top of the grand staircase, wearing a midnight blue gown, simple but striking. She wasn't wearing jewelry, not even earrings. She looked like herself, just a little braver. As their eyes met, her face broke into a smile. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said as he approached. "I wasn't either," he replied. "But I promised my daughter I'd say hi to the princess." She laughed. "Then I better make it worth your trip." As they entered the conservatory, whispers followed them. A few older men eyed Noah with confusion. Some younger guests, clearly used to designer circles, gave half smirks. But Victoria ignored them all. During the dinner, she kept the conversation easy. She introduced him not as someone who found my purse, but as a man I admire for his character. At one point, her father, Charles Langford, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, approached them. "So, you're the man who returned my daughter's bag," he said curtly. "Not many would." "I don't know about that," Noah replied calmly. "Most people don't get the chance to do something good and be noticed for it." Charles raised an eyebrow. "And what do you do, Mr. Bennett?" "Warehouse by day. Diner by night. Father full-time." The older man blinked. "I see." Victoria stepped in gently. "And a man with better manners than half the boardroom." That earned a slight smile from her father. After dinner, guests mingled near the balcony overlooking the private gardens. Noah stood beside Victoria as she looked out at the city skyline. "Why did you really invite me?" he asked softly. She looked at him, her eyes no longer guarded. "Because I've spent years surrounded by people who say the right things. But when I lost something, no one stopped. Except you. You reminded me what real grace looks like." He nodded, taking a deep breath. "And you reminded me that not all rich people forget how to feel." A hush passed between them. The violins continued playing in the distance, but neither of them heard it. Then she said, almost afraid of her own voice, "Noah, I've never done something like this before." Reached out. "Trusted." He turned to face her. "Then we're even." "Because neither have I." Their hands didn't touch. 2 weeks later, the chill of early autumn swept through the park where Emma liked to feed the ducks. Noah sat on a bench, watching her toss breadcrumbs with pure delight. She wore her favorite purple hoodie, the one with the missing zipper, and squealed every time a duck waddled too close. "Careful," he called, smiling. "You always say that, Daddy," she shouted back. He chuckled, but today his mind wasn't entirely there. Because sitting beside him, hair tucked under a cream scarf and fingers wrapped around a cup of hot coffee, was Victoria Langford, dressed down, no heels, no diamonds, just herself. It had been 3 weeks since the Langford dinner. Since then, they had met twice, once for coffee, once for a quiet walk after her foundation board meeting. No paparazzi. No declarations. Just slow, steady conversations that neither had expected to mean so much. "She's wonderful," Victoria said now, eyes on Emma. "You're doing a good job." Noah exhaled. "Most days I feel like I'm barely hanging on." "But you're doing it," she said, nudging his arm. "That counts for everything." He glanced at her. "You know, I keep thinking, if I hadn't seen your purse that day, if I'd just walked by, I would have lost more than just my belongings," she finished softly. A pause. Then, braving the vulnerability blooming between them, Noah asked, "What are we doing, Victoria?" "Really?" She turned, looked him straight in the eyes. "We're rewriting a story. One neither of us expected to be part of." He blinked. "A story where the waitress doesn't just get scolded, and the rich woman doesn't stay behind her gate." She nodded. "Where kindness doesn't get ignored. And love doesn't care where you started." Just then, Emma ran up to them, cheeks pink from the wind. Miss Victoria, she beamed, did you know Daddy makes the best pancakes in the world? I've heard, Victoria said, smiling down at her. But I've never had the proof. Emma gasped. Come over. Tomorrow. Noah gave Victoria a sheepish look. You're invited, I guess. I'd like that, she said, eyes warm. Later that evening, back at the apartment, Emma slept soundly under her blanket fort again. Noah stood by the small kitchen window, staring at the stars over the city's flickering rooftops. He thought about everything, the debt, the broken dreams, the loneliness. And now, this strange, blooming hope. Victoria had sent him a message that night, simple but bold. I don't want a life that's perfect. I want one that's real. Do you? He typed slowly, and replied. I want one with you in it. And in that quiet night, between borrowed furniture and secondhand coats, something felt brand new. Not because a rich woman changed her mind, but because two broken lives had found each other on a street, over a purse, in a moment of kindness, and decided that maybe, just maybe, they were worthy of a second chance at love. Storytelling and beyond. If this story moved you, touched your heart, or reminded you of the power of simple kindness, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who believes in second chances. More stories coming your way.